This is where business ideas and passions turn into profit. Whether you're dreaming of becoming your own boss but don't know how to get started, or have already started a side hustle and wish to grow it exponentially, your host, Victoria Wieck, can help you turn your passion-based business ideas into profit. Welcome to Million Dollar Passion. Here is your host, world-renowned jewelry designer and home shopping TV celebrity, Victoria Wieck.
Welcome to another episode of the Million Dollar Passion podcast. Every week, I try to come up with, problems that a lot of us small business owners face, and bring in experts that could help us guide through that. And so today's problem here that I want to address is that many small business owners, many of them don't even really realize that you do need to build a brand, especially in this day and age. Personal brand. People have to like you and trust you before they'll buy anything. So building a personal brand is the fastest way to gaining some traction, growing your business, and positioning your brand as the next it thing. But how do we do that as small business people? It's just we all are tasked with so many things to do, and there's so many competing needs for our funds. So I thought I would invite the expert in this area. His name is Buckley, and we're going to just have Rocky go right into this and tell us a little bit about how he came about becoming the expert in this field of building the Power Persona project. He's the creator of Power Persona project. And also, he is also the creator of a program called Go Platinum by Reinventing their brand, strategy, and business model. So welcome to the show, Rocky.
Oh, thank you, Victoria. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, I know that you have helped, thousands of companies build their brands, create their premium branding in the minds of the consumer or minds of their clients. And now you're trying to help the smaller people, smaller businesses or newer entrepreneurs to kind of go on the same path without their money, like without the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. So tell us a little bit about how you came about being this expert and how you help people today.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I've helped thousands of companies. I really had, I started in business about 22 years ago, and I worked with some of the biggest publishing companies in the world. Helped them to create a lot of products. So over that time, I was working with authors and experts and people like that. And I was really helping them to extract their expertise and put that into products, whether that was books, courses, curricula, trainings, et cetera. And so I did that for a really long time. And I helped those companies to bring these products into the market and help these experts and authors really kind of stand out and sell their knowledge. And I did that for a really long time. I got to know that process inside and out, all the way from being an author myself to developing all sorts of different, trainings, online, offline, thousands and thousands of products over the course of that, 20-something year period. And then during that time, I was completely behind the scenes. I was somebody who was primarily operating as a consultant. I was sort of like a secret weapon for a lot of these companies, and I would be brought in and help them to get done what they wanted to achieve. But over that time, I had never really been in front of the camera. I had never been somebody who was really that public. I had a very small social following, which was mainly, family and friends and people like that, because my business was completely sort of behind the scenes. And as I started getting around that 20-year mark in business, and I started to get to a certain age, I started realizing, there's a lot more that I want to do. And I realized that I was sitting on a lot of untapped potential within myself, within the expertise that I had. And I started to kind of go through this journey of reinvention. And I sort of decided at a certain point, I'm going to really kind of transition out of this business that I've built for 20-something years and been really successful at. And I'm going to create a new business, different business, where I would become a public figure for the first time. And I would bring myself out in front of the camera. And so I kind of had to go through a journey of exploration. What did that mean? How did I stand out? How did I differentiate myself? How did I position myself properly? And also, how did I extract my own expertise and turn that into products, programs, trainings, et cetera? So that was sort of the path that I went on. And it was really more about I guess at some level, dissatisfaction with the kind of business that I had built. And I realized that there was a lot more potential for me to do something that was more fulfilling, that tapped into what I was really passionate about, my gifts, talents, et cetera. And so the question became, how do I put all that together and build that into something?
Yeah. So it's really interesting that you say that because, a lot of people actually go the other way, meaning that a lot of people have, products, their expertise, they've done things, such as basically create their social proof, and yet they don't have a book. So, some people do it the other way, and they'll find out that when they actually write the book and the book gets traction, then you can actually, come full circle too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
either way, I think that the whole point here is that, I come from the sort of a retail background where when you're on TV and you have like 6 seconds at a time to try to convince people that you are an expert, why they need the product and why they need that product now. It really comes down to is that helping, the customer understand who you are, that you are authentic, there's a person behind the brand. So there is that the power of the persona that really, I would say, 20 years ago when you started out, it wasn't always so that people bought because they understood who the founder is or the genesis of the product or a program. Today, I think that's a must, right? Like today, often, look at the millennials. They're buying things that you're probably a millennial yourself, even though you say you're 20 years old. But I mean, millennials are buying things. They're going out of their way to buy things from a smaller company. They almost take pride in, hey, there's this cute little company that does watches, or there's a cute company that does protein bars, or whatever it is. They find a cause that, or reasons why they can connect with you. And, even though they don't have money, they'll pay more money to buy from somebody that they connect with, that they believe is good for society, that, that it's good for you, that they're looking out for you. So I think that the time right now, your timing is perfect. I mean, I understand that this was a 20-year journey in terms of, gaining knowledge, talents, and putting them all together. And I guess you've helped bring out, a few hundred, 1,000 people bring their, their ideas, their products to life and see the birth of that and then growth of that. You almost had like a petri dish for all these ideas, and incubated them and, watch them from the sidelines. So I think that, someone like yourself who has seen a diverse, categories, expertise to, and then different stages of businesses, that whatever you have to say here would be very valuable to someone who hasn't gone through that journey. So when a small entrepreneur starts a business, typically, they're busy just trying to make profits, more sales versus expenses. So they have some profit and they're busy doing that. And they forget that without, building a brand of some sort, without having your product stand for something, and having that person who's founded this company to be the person behind, behind the product and the reason behind why you should connect with them. I think that's a tough road, wouldn't you say so?
The tough road of just sort of starting out and trying to sell something.
Yeah, trying to just make more profits versus building a brand.
Yeah, and I think that's what we all sort of do. I think that's what most people who, first of all, I just kind of refer back to something that Michael Gerber talks about in his book, The E-Myth. Most people who start their businesses start as he calls a technician.
Yeah.
And that's somebody who was really good at what they did. They wanted to be their own boss. And
Yeah.
at some point they decided to hang out a shingle and start working.
Right.
And
Right.
that's exactly what happened to me too. I grew up without any real frame of reference in business. Nobody in my family was really in business. So when I first started, my drivers were, be my own boss, make more money. There was things like work from home. I wanted to be a very hands-on dad with my kids. So those were really the motivators. And I never really thought about business from the standpoint of playing the long game.
Right.
It was much more about like, okay, how do I get business? And then if you're good at what you do, which I got busy right away.
Yeah.
And I stayed busy and I never really got a chance to think all that strategically about my business.
Yeah.
And especially about me, how do I differentiate? And I was learning all this stuff. because I was doing things for clients. I was creating, again, books, programs, curricula, but also online websites, their marketing campaigns. And I would find that as I was working with clients, they often didn't really know how to articulate who they were and what they were doing. So if somebody hired me to do web development for them and design their whole web package and so on, I would have to get, things like images from them, or I would have to write copy for them. And in order to go through that process, I had to extract out of them things like, well, what do you believe in? What are your values? Why do you do what you do? And they often didn't know.
Right.
So when you're trying to do things like design work and like, a logo or a look or a style, and they couldn't articulate it, I often that's what led me into marketing, was because I had to help my clients kind of figure themselves out. And it's just such a tremendous need for the small business owner who they get really busy. They learn a lot of things online from gurus and so on.
Right.
And the gurus are teaching them tactics, right? Silver bullet, like do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
And so they get tactical right away and they start taking a lot of action. And then at some point they start realizing like this isn't connecting.
Right.
This isn't really resonating. So I'm doing Facebook Lives, I'm putting out all these posts, and I'm dancing on TikTok, and like nothing's really,
like you.
and nothing's hitting the mark. And that's where I come in and try to help people really figure themselves out, because that's the foundation of all the tactics.
Yeah.
If you figure yourself out really well, that's when the strategies and tactics work out. But it often has to be done from the inside out.
You brought up a really good point, is that, there are so many mastermind classes. There are gurus who teach you how to do what they know how to do. A guru might be a digital marketing specialist, and your business might be a brick and mortar store, that could use online as an add-on. So what happens is, I just had this conversation with somebody else this morning, that the only way you can really build your own persona is when you actually understand what it takes to do that. And whether you are a beginner, you're at the beginning stages of a journey, maybe you started a side hustle and you're thinking like, hey, this could actually be a permanent job, or whether you have been in business for 7 years and you're doing 6 figures, but you're just stuck there. And, you're the only way you make more money is by working more hours. There, many of you right now listening to us at different stages, and some of you might be overwhelmed with what you're hearing, from us. And some of you might be saying, you know what, I'm already doing that, but I'm not getting traction. Rocky actually has created a Facebook platform that is completely free. So, you can go facebook.com/groups/power persona, and you'll see all these people at different stages doing their different things. And, you can actually connect with people so you can get some support. I always say, don't try to go on a road by yourself without ever seeing, any landmines. Talk to people who have seen it before. Even if those people failed along the way, they can still teach you something, that'll still save you time. So that Facebook that he has, facebook.com groups power persona, that's something I would, start to connect with right away, because I am a strong believer that if you don't build up, a personal brand, it's really hard in 2022. Especially post-COVID, I think there are some things about COVID that's going to stay with us forever. We are now reprioritizing our lives. We are looking at, what do we value? And people value meaning. People value purpose. People value, passion-driven CEOs, even if they're small, and they're hungry for this. They're seeking out. So the faster you get to kind of, sort of position your brand as something that you stand for and that you align with, the faster your business is going to grow, and more solidly, I would say. You have a foundation that connects with you. So let me ask.
I would say more deeply as well, because I think that's the secret, is that you're connecting with people on a very different level.
Right.
Connecting with them on a values level when you can build a personal brand, right?
Authenticity. So let me ask you, Rocky. So we're going to really now, I'm going to put you in the hot seat here.
Okay.
I forgot to tell you this.
Sure.
People have to be on a hot seat. So what are the top 3 things that will help us build that personal brand?
I think the first thing is really taking a step back and doing what I call a bunch of inner work. And I think that's getting clear on first your life vision.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people who are in business, they think about their business. And if they do get strategic about their business, they can think about the business at the 30,000 foot level, but they don't go to the highest level, which is the life vision.
Right.
And I really believe that in order for someone to create a personal brand that's highly charismatic, magnetic, resonates with people, and taps in on a values level, a person really needs to understand like who they want to be in life, in the big picture, right? Who is it that I want to be in the world? What are the things that I really care about, and so on, and get very, very connected to those things, and then allow that to shape the business vision, because I view business as a subset of your life vision.
I agree, 100%. Yeah.
Right? So when you can really like step back and go, what am I all about here? Who do I really want to become? Who am I? Right? Like when you can sort of on these big picture questions, they have direct and very actionable impact on the way that you see your business and the way that you run your business. Because when
Yeah.
you can get
Okay.
clear at that level, it shapes everything else below that.
Okay.
Your strategy, et cetera.
Yeah. So that's step one. So I'm gonna unpack each step that Rocky is giving. First step, I completely agree with you because I can't tell you how many times, I'm interviewing somebody, for my segment, or I'm interviewing somebody on a different show. And they're like, well, normally I'm not like this, but I'm like, well, wait a minute, stop right there. Like, who are you? Because, if you have completely two different personas, I'm a business person. And when I'm, in business, I'm doing, I'm wearing my suit and I, would talk like this. But when I'm at home, I'm a completely different person,
Right.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, first of all, those two need to be aligned, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
so I would say that number one, your tip, aside from what you said, embedded in that is also, a lot of times people think, well, if I actually show my real self, if I tell them what I really think, or if I give a real opinion about what I really believe, that they may, I'm going to lose half the audience. They may not like me, or, I may not resonate with them. Well, you know what? I say, take a chance, because if you're so preoccupied with what other people think, you're not going to ever convince 100% of the people. Right? You're better off attracting the people that align with you from day one. It's easy to work with them. Yes. So I would say, don't be focused on, as long as you're not going to be, but I would also go along with that, your vulnerabilities, the things that you fear, the things that you're not perfect about, it's okay to share them. It's okay to be honest with, people. Say, hey, a lot of times when I get interviewed, I would say, somebody asked me a question, I would say, you know what, I'm actually working on that myself personally, because that's one area of my life that I still struggle with. And it's okay, because nobody's perfect all the time. I mean, I am not perfect at any time, forget about,
right.
I'm just going to right up front, like, newsflash. So it's okay to, be vulnerable at times, because that's what makes you real. Sure. So I would say that your life vision, meaning how do you envision, all the things that you align with, things that you care about, how you want to spend time with, because that's how you're going to, relate to these, how you're going to be relatable to your target audience, but also that's how you can ultimately help them. Right. Because you understand that you have to also, add value to them, and how you can add value based on your, because there are some things you should never, I built my business without ever compromising the things I want in my life. So when I started my company so I can spend more time with my kids. So as my business grew, and I, like people from Dubai and Turkey and, Japan were calling me. I wasn't on a plane going there all the time. I sent them a fax saying, I'm not, I've got kids. I got to get to a soccer game. I can't do this. Okay. So, it turns out that I ended up, losing some, clients or potential clients, but the ones I had valued that, they were okay with that. So yeah. I would say, I completely agree with you with your step number one, which is to kind of figure out what you want out of life, and is there a value in, who you are, to adding value to other people's lives and that you want to help. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, okay. I do. I think that, and it's especially from a vision standpoint, like how do you envision your own future? Right. Who do you want to be in 5 years or 10 years? Right. And how do you chart a course to become that, to embody that eventually? And what does that mean for your business. What kind of a business, like your business model will change depending when you get really clear on your life, what you want your life to look like. So in your case, your family was front and center. Your family was a very high value for you. That excluded a lot of business models for you. You just couldn't do certain things and you wouldn't, right? So your values, your life vision informed your business vision, and it put your business vision in a box, and it started to shape what kind of business you would have and what you would be selling and what kind of things you'd be offering, et cetera. And then within that, that's where your brand starts to emerge. It's like, okay, I want to serve these kind of people in this sort of a way, and who do I need to be to really resonate with those people? And that begins that step two, which I would talk about, is that it's about becoming self-aware about yourself. What are aspects about your personal identity? What are aspects of your personality, your life story, right, your history, that you can sort of go conscious and become aware of your background, your history, and start extracting these things out of yourself so that you can shape them and craft them into that very targeted public persona that really resonates with those people you're looking to connect with.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that you kind of transitioned into the step two in that way, because I think they kind of work together, very together. And to use my, many of you who follow me on this podcast actually came to me from my TV shows. And you'll know when I'm on TV, when I first went on TV in 1998, they had all these movie stars, that were on the same network, talking about, oh, when I was on this show, when I was on that show, I hang around with all the people, the pretty people in Beverly Hills on yachts and, these mansions. And I'm just like a, little mom with two kids. Nobody knew who I was, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I would, I go on TV and I would say, look, I've done all this work for, I do a lot of work in the studios, I do, a lot of clients, pay me good money to do their pieces, but I'm here to share, the struggles I have, which is, I don't have help at home, and I, take my kids to school, and I'm an active mom. So I go to their PTA meetings, I go to their soccer games. And when I'm in those places, I still want to look good, feel feminine. I want to have something little sparkly, and I don't want to have to spend a fortune, paying for jewelry that could go to my kids' tuition. So here's an, affordable line of jewelry that's done by the same, same care and artistic talent as the stars are using, because I was doing a lot of work in the studios. And you can buy them today, $99. It could be an heirloom piece because it is done with high quality. And so what happens is with that, when you do that, is you come up with things that are versatile. You don't come up with, things that you can only wear on the red carpet. That's shoulder dusters or, big hoops. You're going to come up with a line that's very elegant that you could wear from day to evening to, whatever.
Yeah.
So again, when you craft who you are, and that messaging is a part of you. It's not a line that you have to script and memorize. You're going to develop products and courses and everything else that kind of align with that.
Yes.
And I would say that's natural to attract people who want to, duplicate who you are, who would be inspired by your story and you. So Definitely. Step three. Well, unless you want to add to that step two.
No, there's a lot of steps. So one thing I would refer to here is if people are listening and are really interested in the subject of really crafting yourself first, but then targeting this like raving fan group of people who really, really connect with you.
Yeah.
I'd refer them to an article that I learned about from Tim Ferriss, which is by a man named Kevin Kelly, and it's called 1,000 True Fans.
Okay. Yeah.
And that concept of the 1,000 true fans was really very, very influential on my thinking about this. It's really bringing out those aspects of yourself, even if they're just peripheral to your business. They don't necessarily have to be directly related. They're outside. It might be the music that you like or whatever it might be, sports teams or whatever. But you're bringing some of those flavor points into your brand, and people are touching, they're connecting with you on those things. And that's when they become really enthusiastic about being in your world. So just to refer people to that as a reference point, I think that's an article that's sort of a must read, in my view, in the personal branding space.
Yeah, I think Tim Ferriss's books, also, there's a lot of golden nuggets there. Absolutely. I do agree with you that 1,000 raving fans are better than 10,000 followers on, Instagram that don't really know you. They'll just hit a little, like button or something like that. So I'd rather have the 1,000 fans because raving fans, because they're more likely to tell 10 people each
That's
person.
it. Exactly. Right.
And that's really how my business grew, and I can really testify to that. So step 3, and you can talk about other steps, but step 3, because I usually like to go at least a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, step 3 is really where you now, first of all, you've gotten really clear on your life vision. You've now begun to do that inner work about going conscious about all these things that you bring to the table, all these aspects of, again, your beliefs, your identity, your personality, your history, your life story, your point of view. You get really clear on all that stuff so that you're conscious about it, and then you can design that public persona. Now, from there, once you start stepping into that public persona, you can become very strategic. It's about really understanding your market. It's about doing work in the areas of market research.
Yeah.
It's about doing work in the areas of positioning and strategy and figuring out those aspects of what makes you unique. Ideally, what makes you the first one and the only one like you.
Yeah.
Right. And getting clear on what those points are, because that's what you're going to really lean into as you create your personal brand. Now, all the other stuff that follows from point 3 is really all about, strategy, tactics, productizing your knowledge, right? Developing a portfolio of products and offers, eventually elevating your price to a premium brand, right? And there's ways to do that.
Yeah.
But that that third step is really all about that positioning and strategy and differentiation part, because you've got to be clear on that in order to have effective messaging. You can be very talented in front of a camera, but if people can't really follow what you're saying, they don't really know what are you really talking about, or what are you selling? You're great on camera, but your messaging isn't clear. It all kind of has to come together, right? So the personality, the charisma, all of that needs to marry itself with the message and go forward from there. So it's about now articulating this into a real world thing that you can act upon. You can start putting out content and so on, because your messaging is really sharp at this point.
Now, embedded in what Rocky and I are talking about here is the assumption that you actually do have an amazing, knowledge, product, expertise that you can share. Okay, so BS factors don't work. I mean, all the things that we're talking about, if your product sucks, then it kind of dies. That I just want to say.
Well, no, of course, yeah.
I want to say that. So if I'm just saying that, experienced entrepreneurs who, give their heart and soul, they know their product inside out. They're really experts. I mean, they can tell you every screw, every little line in their copy, but, they haven't crafted, personal branding persona. That's where this expertise comes in. But if you are just kind of getting in, you don't really know what you want, then you're not going to ever get clear on your product or messaging, or, can even refer to the product itself. Even if it's an online course, you really don't have anything to add and value. So the first thing I would say is try to figure out what value you're adding to your potential audience, right? Are you, saving them money, saving them time, saving them from a future disaster? I mean, there's all these different ways you could actually position yourself as to why you are needed in their life,
Sure.
So,
yeah.
now
I will say though, we are in an age now, thanks to social media, we're in an age of the influencer now.
Right.
And we're in a time where people, just on the power of their personality, what they're interested in, what they do, how they spend their days. Right. And they don't really have any true value or expertise, but they're able to get clear on the persona that they're presenting to the public. Mm-hmm. They can be, outrageous or fun or whatever that kind of archetype, that style that they are.
Yeah.
Build a following around that, and there's a lot of business to be done there too, because they can become the face of other programs. They can recommend other people's stuff and so on. So I think even that, like, there is the opportunity now that I think there may not have been in the past, to just be like a personality. If you can be strategic about it, you can actually build a really nice business off of YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, etc.
Yeah.
And, but getting clear on yourself, even if you just want to be an influencer, it's still the essential key that unlocks everything else.
Yeah, even I think influencers that I know that are pretty successful, I mean, they kind of, 5 years ago, they kind of stumbled onto something But once they become that and they want to be successful at it, they then still have to understand the product that they're influencing with. They have to, there's a lot more work than most people think it is. Now let's switch gears a little bit about those people that really have expertise and they've gotten some traction. You talk about how then they productize their knowledge, and specifically speaking, the one thing I think I'm very passionate about is this idea of generating passive income. Online classes or high ticket, training courses. How do you go about converting from an expert or somebody with the product to then creating high ticket, online training courses?
Yeah, I think the first real step from that is looking at it from a business model standpoint. And I think that most people who are experts find themselves trapped in sort of this one-to-one business model,
right,
where they're basically getting paid for their time. So when you're trading time for money, as you mentioned earlier at the top of the show, you're trapped.
Yeah.
You get stuck in this situation where even if you're doing well, you get a nice six-figure business, there's a ceiling because you have no more time.
Right.
And if you're not confident about your pricing and you're thinking about competing on the basis of price, now you've got kind of a double bind.
Right.
There's no way out of that, and you find yourself trapped, right? So at a business model level, I think that's where experts really need to start rethinking what they're doing and saying, is there a different way for me to deliver my expertise in ways that could scale, in ways that could become passive, and also in ways that down the road, I could actually structure my business to sell to somebody else.
Right.
Or I can license my intellectual property, whatever it is. So many of us that are experts and we're trading time for money, we built ourselves a nice job. And I like to think of it kind of as a sandcastle that at the end of the day, after many, many years of working really hard, you've built a sandcastle that just gets washed away when you stop working. There's nothing left, right? So how do you take what you already know and just tweak it, right? Or just shift it in different ways? You don't need to learn anything else. You don't need to add any more expertise. You just need to change the way you're doing it. And I find with a lot of experts, just reconfiguring the way they're doing things puts themselves in a completely different business model where they can charge a lot more and have a lot more time and lifestyle freedom, et cetera, and passive income from selling things like courses and so on, as well as having a business that you can sell at the end of the day, which is a huge factor that very few people even really think about.
Right.
But that's a really big consideration when you go into business and you have this kind of a business. So
for sure. Yeah.
There's all those structural elements that I would say would be that next step. How do I take what I already know? I'm sitting on all this untapped potential that if it were configured differently, could rocket me in a completely different area and take me to another level. And that's what I think a lot of experts are sitting on.
I agree with you on that. I have a couple of doctors in my family and 2 lawyers. I have a brother and a sister who are lawyers. And it just honestly, like, my brother is a real top-notch lawyer. And he'll charge $1,200 an hour. I mean, he's charged that for the last 5 years, and, he's very proud of it. But I always say, like, you still have only 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So whether you're charging $1,200 an hour or $400 an hour, there's a cap, unless you want to not sleep, for another 6 hours, there's still a cap. So you're still trading, high dollars per hour. Mm-hmm. Whereas, somebody who's trading stocks, for example, I could do I'm not a stock person, but let's say hypothetically, I bought the right stock, 3 minutes, I could make 10 grand, if I was right on that. Yeah. So I try to tell them, to create some sort of a online course that they can sell, because, he's got some amazing expertise, but right now he doesn't have time to create the online course because he's too busy trying to make money, doing the other stuff. So you're right, they're kind of trapped.
Well, now, not everybody needs to turn their business into their sole, way that they're making an income or so on. So for some, my sister's a very high-powered attorney in Manhattan, partner in a big law firm, makes probably similar money to, et cetera. But, she's able to take that income and if you can divert that into other passive income generating properties, that's great. Then you don't need to turn your business into the thing. But if you really want your business to mirror up with your lifestyle, and it's like, this is who you want to be, and your business is your passion, and everything comes together in your business, right? Then you want to build your business in a way that can become a passive income property. But if you really are high dollar, you're making money by the hour,
Yeah.
and you can take that money and put it into something passive, real estate, stocks, et cetera, crypto, whatever it
Yeah.
might be.
So he's doing
That's
that, but
cool, but yeah, I don't think everybody necessarily has to go that direction, but it definitely makes sense if your business is really all about your expertise. This is what you love.
right,
This is
right.
where you're getting your fulfillment from. Then why not do this business in a way that it gives you all of those factors at the same time? You can make a lot of money, fulfill your, lifestyle, your
Yeah.
talents, your gifts, want to leave a legacy, right? All of that comes together in your business. Not everybody has to do that. If you own a string of laundromats, that's great. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to feel
I
passionate about it, but for a lot of us, we do.
I hear that. I think in his case, he tells me every time there is a major crisis, and he's dealing with. Usually he does like a middle-sized companies, about $15 to $50 million businesses, so they've they're pretty good. But unfortunately, the only times he really gets involved because of who he is and what he does is when they're in major trouble. So he says, like if somebody needs to be out there telling people how to prevent, some of the problems, and, like there's lawyers should be hired as a precaution at some point, but people don't do that because they're expensive. So I'm like, it's true, people don't actually call a DUI lawyer until they actually get something, or they don't call somebody until they get sued. So a lot of there's a huge market for that. And
it is, but it is difficult to sell a prevention as opposed to
yeah, I agree with you, but
like my dad has a really, really successful long-term security business, corporate security.
Mhm.
So he works at really high levels with
Yeah.
very big corporations, and deals with the risks that they have and so on, and all sorts of things. But selling them prevention in advance, and like, wow, you have these vulnerabilities, or you could even, your physical building is vulnerable to attack and all of that kind of thing, or hackers or whatever. It's very, very difficult to sell prevention. So that's where, like, selling a cure to a high value problem,
Yeah.
that's one of those secrets to selling at high price points, to going premium with your pricing.
I was going to say the
It's
next
figuring out, it's figuring out like how can I take what I already know, but apply it to an area where there's urgency and somebody really now has a bleeding neck problem. And I
right.
can take what I already know and I can just focus in that area. And all of a sudden you can jack your price way, way up. So like,
Yeah. So
it's tough to sell prevention, but cures that's the secret where you can now elevate your pricing significantly.
my next question is there a secret to selling high ticket online programs?
I think there's many secrets, but one of the ones that I like to focus on specifically is framing your solution as a system, as a well-designed system.
Mhm.
Because when you can package your expertise as a system, it demonstrates that you have mastery over that problem.
Yeah.
You've solved it enough times that you've now can package it together as, a 3-step system or a 5-step system,
Yeah.
et cetera. And that gives you tremendous leverage from a marketing standpoint, because it allows you to articulate your message in a really concise and clear way, a way that makes it feel like the solution is fast, simple, and easy, as much as possible. Right.
Right.
So I'm sure with, all of your work over the years, there's been so many products that have to do with weight loss or something like that. But
Yeah.
when you can package, let's say, a weight loss solution as, hey, it's an easy 3-step system. It's something that you can do without having to give up all the foods you love, et cetera. But it's in that packaging, it's in that taking what you know and now shaping it into a
Digestible
systematic
system.
formula.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you can
It almost
formalize.
sounds like it's a plug-in system. Other people have done it before, and it's easy.
Yes.
It's all done for you, right?
I think that's a way that it's a brilliant way to, first of all, formulate your own intellectual property
Mhm.
in a way that can sell to somebody else, right? That's what we talked about in terms of legacy.
Yeah.
How do you take your IP and turn it into something you can sell? But also from a marketing standpoint, yes, when you can articulate what I've got here is a proven system,
Right.
and it consists of this and this and this and this, people are now buying into not only the solution that you're selling. So it might be, burn 30 pounds of fat in 90 days, right? But I'm going to help teach you how to do that in these steps.
Right.
And I can teach you that the process is going to be fast, simple, and easy as much as I can, right? So when you can put those things together, It makes it much, much more marketable, much more palatable. It seems almost like a magic bullet solution. And people are willing to pay a lot more because they know what, they know what the promise is. It's very, very clear. In 90 days, I'm going to get this result. When
And
you sell your time one-on-one,
yeah.
it feels like an open-ended process. And hey, we'll work together and we don't know when we're going to get there. And it's just, you pay me by the hour.
Yeah.
When you can sell a system, it just changes the game for you. So I always
Also
recommend
easy to
every
teach.
expert learn how to do that.
Yeah, it's also easy to teach it because you do have it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So second piece of that in terms of, you created the system, how do you convince them that they actually need it? Like, and they need to buy it now.
Well, I think the solution that you solve should be a high value problem that people are already looking for.
Right.
So you don't have to reinvent the wheel and say, hey, I'm the first one who's ever solving the problem of weight loss. Right? It might be, though, that within weight loss, there is a specific problem. And it might be, let's say, for people who need to lose 50 pounds or more. So it's not the person that just wants to lose 10 pounds. It's a person that has a more serious problem. And they want urgency. They need this thing fixed.
I want to lose
fast.
100 pounds, for example.
Exactly. So those people don't need convincing that they need a solution.
Right.
And when you can get those really hot, areas where people are already looking for solutions, they're already spending a lot of money, and now they're really serious and they want to get that fixed now, that's where you can step in. And when you can articulate, a kind of a ready-made solution that feels very doable for them.
Yeah.
That's where you can almost charge what you want at that point.
Rocky, I think you're so right on track on that because, I have a $5,000 course and a $25,000 course and a $75,000 course. It's really interesting. After I give a really compelling speech, like I do a lot of keynote speeches, I kid you not, 30 people will come after me. Like, they want to connect with you. They want to talk to you. And it's easier for me to sell the $75,000 course 10 times a day than the $5,000 one, because the value of the problem, these are people who are doing 7-8 figures already. And with the 7-8 figures of business, for a small business that's kind of funding everything on their own, every action take, the stakes are so high.
Yeah.
Right. So they're just one moment away from, going bankrupt or, just setting themselves really back in a financial situation. So that's really interesting. The $5,000 one to me is the hardest one to sell because that one has less value and people don't understand, you get some beginning entrepreneurs that really don't understand what they, even though that's probably the best value, really, they don't understand that it's hard. But aside from that, I would say, we just had an amazing conversation about, I think this was a very productive and informative conversation about all the different things you could do, whether you are in, selling products now, you're an author, or you're an expert who is currently trading time for money, even if you're high paid like a CPA, or you can always, if you aspire to create side income, or, I always say helping other people. Like with my brother, I say to him, like, if you can come up with even a $200 course on how to prevent, for example, just NDAs, like, when you talk to people, just come up with an NDA form that's not offensive so that, they're keeping their intellectual property somewhat, and all little things like that. I agree with you that trying to sell prevention at, $10,000 is tough, but, there's a lot of different ways he could impact small business person. So I just think that this conversation today, we really covered a lot of ground on how to build your personal brand persona and how to, really, I guess at the end of the day, all of you, you listen to me every week and I say all the time, if people don't like you, they don't trust you and they don't respect you, they're not going to buy anything from you. So really that's the beginning of this, to get the first 1,000 raving fans who's going to talk about you and elevate your message and amplify your voice. I think that Rocky, you just came in and, just really shared a lot of wisdom and knowledge and, the nuggets. So how do people find you and connect with you and find out more about your community?
Yeah, the easiest way to just kind of enter into my world is through the Facebook community that you had mentioned earlier, the Power Persona Project. And the easiest way to go there is through the URL at powerpersonaproject.com. and you can just hop into this free group, and I'm in there. It's a highly engaged, interactive group.
Yeah,
I've interviewed people in there like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, and Stu McLaren, and Bob Berg, and a lot of luminaries in our industry. So there's a lot of great content, great conversation, great connections and networking inside of that community. So I would just say hop in there, and that's the entry point into my world. And then, you get to know me from that point.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, my pleasure, Victoria. Thank you.
Yeah. And for those of you who are listening here, thank you so much for listening again. And until next time, please stay healthy and happy. And remember, happiness is a choice. And I hope you make great choices.
You've been listening to $1 Million Passion, where we turn dreams into reality and passion into profit. According to ancient Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Congratulations on taking that first step today. For more information on how Victoria can help you turn your business idea into $1 million and to download Victoria's free ebook on passion-based business ideas, visit $1,000,000passion.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player.